Welcome to the story of an aircraft that helped hold the line when Britain stood alone, a bomber that carried more than just bombs. It carried hope, resilience, and innovation. This is the legacy of the Vickers Wellington. The year was 1936. Europe was simmering. As clouds of war began to gather once more over the continent, Britain was racing to modernize its air force. Outdated biplanes were being phased out, and the Royal Air Force was desperate for a new generation of aircraft. It needed bombers, fast, reliable, and above all, survivable. Enter Barnes-Wallis, a name you might recognize from the famous bouncing bomb. But before that, Wallis pioneered something just as important: geodesic construction. Inspired by airship design, his concept used a mesh-like framework of metal beams arranged in a lattice, giving the Wellington incredible strength with surprisingly little weight. Unlike conventional bombers, the Wellington didn't rely on thick armour. Its structure absorbed damage and kept flying, often when it had no business doing so. When the Wellington first took flight in 1936, it was already ahead of its time. With twin engines, a top speed of over 230 miles per hour, and a bomb load of up to 4,500 pounds, it was built for endurance. More importantly, it could take punishment. Stories quickly spread of Wellingtons returning home riddled with bullet holes, shrapnel, and even with entire sections blown away, yet they landed safely. The geodesic frame held together even when the skin was torn open. At the outbreak of World War II, the Wellington was Britain's main bomber. It flew the RAF's very first bombing raid of the war, targeting German naval installations. In the early years, it carried out thousands of sorties across enemy territory, often under heavy fire. Unlike the glamorous Lancaster that came later, the Wellington did its job quietly, relentlessly, night after night. It was used in every theatre of the war, from the cold skies over Europe to the deserts of North Africa. It patrolled the Atlantic, hunting U-boats. It dropped mines, flares, propaganda leaflets, and yes, tons upon tons of bombs. It was truly a multi-role workhorse. By 1941, the Wellington had begun to be phased out of frontline strategic bombing, replaced by four-engine giants like the Halifax and the Lancaster. But that wasn't the end of its story. Not even close. The Wellington went on to serve as a trainer, a maritime patrol aircraft, and even in experimental roles. It continued flying operational missions well into 1945. And yet, for all it did, the Wellington is often forgotten, overshadowed by flashier machines. But look at the numbers. Over 11,400 built, more than any other British twin-engine bomber. It was the only bomber to remain in production throughout the entire war, a testament to its reliability and versatility. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into aviation history, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Your support helps keep these stories alive. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've got a favourite aircraft or a story connected to the Wellington. Now, let's get back to it. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Wellington was the loyalty it inspired in its crews. Pilots and gunners often spoke of the aircraft as if it were alive. Many owed their lives to its toughness. There are stories, dozens of them, of Wellingtons limping home on one engine, and yet they made it back. And that strength came from a design so ahead of its time that it would influence aircraft construction for decades. The geodesic airframe, light yet incredibly durable, was a precursor to modern monocoque structures used in aircraft today. Barnes-Wallis had given the RAF not just a bomber, but a survivable one. Even as late as 1944, Wellingtons were still flying critical missions. In anti-submarine warfare, they dropped depth charges and torpedoes using radar to find lurking U-boats. In training roles, they prepared thousands of new bomber crews for service in larger aircraft. They were everywhere, quietly doing the work no one else noticed, And perhaps that's the essence of the Wellington's legacy. It was never meant to win the war alone, but it held the line during Britain's darkest hours. It delivered when nothing else could. And in doing so, it bought time. Time for the RAF to grow, for technology to evolve, and for the war to turn. Today, only a handful of Wellingtons survive. Most are museum pieces, reminders of a time when Britain's skies were filled with the drone of propellers and the thunder of conflict. But their story endures. So the next time you hear about the great aircraft of World War II, spare a thought for the Wellington. It may not have the fame of the Spitfire or the Lancaster, but without it, the outcome of the early war years might have been very different. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into aviation history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the legendary machines that shaped our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay respectful of the past, and keep your eyes on the skies.